Likkle ideas are transformed into big dreams. On the toolkit, and you will access a lot of resources. A lot of the information that we presented here today, there are a lot of activity sheets. So we encourage you to download some of that information. Also, there's a digital swag bag with Good afternoon, everyone. It's another Wednesday, and if it's Wednesday, you know it's Likkle Byte Ideas with your friends at Samuel Fields Consulting Group. I am Dorit Whitlock. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer, and we are delighted as we celebrate April as Financial Literacy Month to welcome all of you to discuss financial literacy, financial knowledge, and how we can be financially empowered. Of course, as I say every week, I do not do the show alone. So let me get my co-host in here with me, Megan Samuel Fields. She is the CEO of Samuel Fields Consulting Group. Megan, how are you?
Hi, Dorit. I am well. How are you?
I am doing great. It's been a long day.
Oh, it has been a long couple of days, but
It's been. But
good.
As we said, busy is good.
Busy is always good. Busy is
what
always.
What is that financial saying? It's better to say here it is than where it is.
Where it is. Oh, yes.
Yep. So as our friends are joining us, we want to remind everyone that as a part of Financial Literacy Month, we've been looking at various sectors within the financial services industry. Of course, our goal is to ensure that our viewers and listeners can really pull the pieces together in their financial picture. So we started out first with the banking sector, and we looked at financial literacy in the banking sector, particularly as it relates to technology, and that how empowering that is, giving people more options to stay on top of their finances. And then last week, we were blown away talking about insurance, and I really got an education about how insurance works. Why, after slaving and working hard to amass your wealth, why would you not protect your wealth? And so I heard a presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it as well, that really spoke to the how prudent it is to really protect your assets using insurance as a financial tool. And today we continue with that education, and we're talking to the credit unions. And these days, there are many persons who are looking at alternative financial services. You may or may not still be with your bank, but you're looking to invest, do something a little different. And of course, the credit unions have been around for a long time. So we have some great folks representing credit unions across the region, not just here in Antigua and Barbuda. And we are going to be talking about the role that credit unions play in imparting financial knowledge, financial literacy throughout the community. So let me welcome all of our guests to the virtual stage, and I'll start with Miss Denise Garfield. And she is, hi Denise, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Denise.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, ladies. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening.
Pleasure having you.
Fantastic. And Denise she's a general manager of, oh my goodness, it's a lot of C's. Help me out, Denise.
Caribbean Confederation of Credit Unions.
See, that's a mouthful right there. I'd have to breathe in between everyone. So welcome. And so Denise is based in St. Kitts, where her organization is headquartered. But at home in Antigua and Barbuda, we have Mistress Dorothea Blackman Brown. She is the league manager of the Antigua and Barbuda Cooperative League.
Hello, ladies. It's a pleasure to be here.
Fantastic. And she's
Welcome.
joined ably by her training and education officer, Miss Agnes Seeley Jarvis.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you today.
Good afternoon,
Fantastic.
Agnes. We have
Fantastic.
a full house.
We do. We do. I don't think
Yes,
we've had
indeed.
this many guests on in a long
This
time.
is the
We
first.
did. No, we did do it. Remember a couple of when we did Likkle Byte ideas with the authors and everything. We did have and the winners. We did have, I think,
Right.
6
We
persons
did,
on
we
the
did,
screen,
we
but that
did.
was a little different.
Yes.
I didn't have to sit up straight. We were talking
Little
about
gift
Christmas and
ideas.
shopping, so I could
Yes.
kind of sit back. But today we're talking business and credit unions and multiplying that money. So I figured let's sit up a little straight today because we're talking serious business here. So to all of our guests, thank you for all of our listeners and viewers. We thank you for joining us. We're in for a very insightful discussion. Call up your friends and neighbors and tell them we're talking credit unions. There's going to be a lot of information here today that you cannot afford to miss. So let's get started by talking about credit unions. I think most of us have heard about credit unions, but Dorothea, I'm going to come back to you. Interestingly, Dorothea is pretty new to the credit union business, no stranger to the financial services sector, but she is spreading her wings. And so she's already making waves in the credit union space. But let me start with the veteran, Denise Garfield. Tell us about credit unions, what their role is as you see it in today's financial services landscape.
Okay, thank you, ladies. Well, first of all, credit unions have been around for many, many decades. I think I want to give a little history that globally, there are 87,914 credit unions.
You know it down to the number. Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a
in
whole
118 countries, and they serve 393,871,631 members.
That's a lot of firepower right there.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yes, for sure.
And I'll break that down now to our region.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, there are 230 credit unions that serve 2.7 million Caribbean persons, of which 48 represents the Eastern Caribbean, which serves over 454,000 persons with a member penetration rate of 70%.
Oh, wow.
That's impressive. That's
So
very impressive.
I always say, take away 2.7 million, and those persons would not have been served.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So credit unions play a significant role in the lives of our own communities.
Yeah.
Our cooperative principles are the basic foundation why credit unions exist. But I'll leave Miss Training Officer go through those cooperative principles. But basically, we are an organization. We usually say we're financial cooperatives, and we are based basically in providing access to finance. And access to finance is more than just borrowing. It's about savings. It's about budgeting. It's about learning as to how it is that you can use credit. It's also about being a savvy consumer. And we impact lives based on social issues. We looked at poverty, eradicating poverty, education, housing, social service, mobilizing communities, and also contributing to national development.
Thank you so much for that. Those are very powerful statistics.
You're welcome. But I don't think a lot of persons realize how impactful credit unions are right across the world.
Yeah.
And the role that they play in impacting positively on the lives of persons, especially where it has to do with financial inclusion.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's wonderful. Well, let's thank you so much for that, Denise. That's very, very. I took some notes. That's very, very powerful information. Let's go to the local front. I'd be interested to know because the Antigua and Barbuda Cooperative League, they are the umbrella or industry association for credit unions here in Antigua and Barbuda. So I'd be interested to hear whatever statistics you have in terms of the number of credit unions you have under your umbrella, if you have a sense as to how many people it represents, in terms of, members as well as dollars. That would be very helpful.
Well, right now we have 7 credit union affiliates, and the membership together combined exceeds 43,000.
Okay.
Oh, that's almost half the population.
Absolutely.
That's a lot.
That's a lot because I
Yeah,
mean,
I
it's the
didn't realize
population
that.
if you take out children. As Denise
Exactly.
mentioned, it's 70% penetration rate. I'm sure that represents, 70%
Close
would
to
be
that.
realistic for us as well. Very interesting.
We start to use members at age 16 and up.
Okay. So you have to be
And we
16 to
do
be a
have
member.
savers accounts in some of
Uh-huh.
the credit unions. And I'm speaking from a Caribbean wide
Right.
perspective,
Mm-hmm.
just to shed some light, to our audience of how our magnitude that the credit union sector plays.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Now, Denise, again, you're the veteran here. Tell us. We hear about it all the time, and a lot of people always want to know what's the big difference between what makes a credit union so attractive. What's the difference between a credit union and a bank?
So I'm sure the audience would love to know that we offer excellent interest on savings. By far, no doubt about that. We also offer insurance on our loans. Our structure is one of ownership. So every member has one vote and they're owners of the credit union, which is a little different because in the banking industry, and I'm sure Dorothea in her past will shed some light in that respect, that you have a few shareholders in the banking industry versus in the credit union industry, every member is a shareholder. In addition to that, once the credit union does well, all the members pay their loans, they get dividend payments at the end of the financial year.
I always find that to be very interesting and very attractive. It's a concept that I find it very intriguing because I come from a finance background, corporate background, and normally you have, as you said, the few shareholders who are the ones benefiting from the profits of the company. But here it is, you have a credit union where everybody, doesn't matter how much money you have, you are at the same status, the same level as any other member.
Correct.
I find that
And
very
that is what makes it very intriguing as well, because because the credit unions are structured in that way. You are focused on the members and ensuring that the members benefit. So you're not driven so much as to ensure that there is returns on the investments of the few people who may not even necessarily be depositors or hold business with your bank, but just invest in it. Credit union sharply different. And so it's embedded in the community and everyone feels that they have a stake in it.
If I may just add here as well, in the credit union movement, the members have a say at the annual general meeting.
I wanted to ask
They-
about that.
Yes.
So they select their board of directors, their credit committee members, as well as their supervisory committee members. The banks now, they have their board members, but only shareholders can attend those meetings. So you might have
Absolutely.
a bank account, but there's no way that you can have a say. Whereas the credit union, once you're a member, you have that opportunity at every annual general meeting.
So,
That's very interesting.
So conceptually, at a general meeting, an AGM, all the members can attend.
Can attend.
There is nothing preventing them from attending and voting.
Yes.
Yes, so
correct.
there's no weighting on the voting. You know, it's not based on how much money you hold at the credit union.
Yes.
One member, one vote.
One vote. Oh. So I can have
That's
one
very
share
interesting.
and
Just as important as
have
the
the same
person who
status
has
as
exactly.
millions.
Exactly.
What a concept. I have to say I like it.
Yeah, and it's very well. We grew up in a home where, I mean, my mother was a big believer in the credit union, and I believe served on boards or committees,
Oh, yes,
or
you did. For
you know, I
years.
remember going to the credit union office and having to wait with all these meetings. So
As a matter of fact, Mrs. Whitlock, your mom served on the league's board as treasurer.
are you serious?
Oh,
Yes, she did.
I did not know that.
I did
know
not
she
know
was
that.
with
What?
Whispers Credit Union, but I didn't know she was on the
She
league.
served on Community First board, and she served on the league's board as the treasurer.
You learn something every day.
I had no clue. I was never aware of this. We were probably in college. I was not aware of this.
No, we weren't.
That was a few years ago. She served on the board.
That too was a few years ago.
When I say a few years ago, it would probably be.
Let's not go how far back. Let's go.
Within 10 years ago.
Some people think we're young. Let's leave it at that.
You are young as you feel.
True.
But we're talking business, and people are curious, and you know, a lot of people, I would say within the past year or two, I learned more about credit unions than I've ever learned. But let's talk business strategy, finance, opportunities. I have my little nest egg. Pitch me, convince me. Why am I bringing my money to a credit union? What are some of the advantages? Yes, okay. You have higher savings rates. That's a good thing. What are some of the other advantages of investing my money in a credit union, perhaps seeking a loan? What other investment opportunities do you have? Here's your opportunity to sell me and everyone else who's listening on why they should become a member and what they can expect in terms of benefits over and above what you get from other financial institutions.
Well, one of the
Go ahead, Ms. Garfield. Go ahead.
Okay, one of the advantages, and I will now put myself as a member. I'm not going to talk as if I'm the general manager of the CCCU.
Mm-hmm.
I conduct most of my transactions with the credit union. In Jamaica, where I'm originally from, we have limitations that do not allow us to access some products and services, and that's because of regulation. But a little later on down in our discussions, I will also mention that that's one of the reasons why there's the league, there is CCCU, etc., because we advocate and lobby for further enhancements to regulations to allow us to have products and services to serve all our members on an even sphere, basically to allow members to access finance, whether it be digitally or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, as an ordinary citizen, I enjoy the benefit that when I go into my credit union, my savings and loans are insured. That in the event of death, my debt dies with the debtor.
Good point. I like that.
That's
I like
one.
that.
Two, when I take a loan, there is a savings compulsory aspect that goes to my shares. And I will mention here that during the pandemic, because of that compulsory savings portion, it saved a lot of our members right throughout the world not just in the Caribbean, not just in Antigua and Barbuda, but right across the world because of that savings compulsory aspect of your loan. So every loan that you get, there is a savings compulsory, a compulsory savings aspect that you must put towards your shares. It is untouchable. However, I can tell you that during the pandemic, a lot of members did not remember that they had access to be able to go to their shares, to be able to get that funds that would have been saved during the time of their loans.
That's
So that
fantastic.
itself is another advantage.
Mhm.
I don't want to speak to all the advantages, so I'm going to allow the rest of the panel. But those are two main advantages: the insurance that is covered on your loans and savings, as well as the fact that you have a compulsory savings aspect on every loan that you take in the credit union.
I think that's fantastic.
I will just add and allow Mrs. Jarvis to speak further, but I would just add, piggybacking on the point from Ms. Garfield, the banks, you know you're doing something good when the banks tend to follow what you're doing, because that compulsory saving component is, as you said, a lifesaver. And I think banks now are looking into seeing how they can factor that sort of thing in with their loans, because usually what you would find is you qualify for a mortgage, life happens, and maybe at the end of every year you're unable to scrape the funds together to pay for the insurance, to do the property taxes and so on. How wonderful it is to be able to come at the end of the term of your loan, whether it's 5 years or 20 years, and have a fantastic nest egg sitting there to assist you. And I just think it's just a brilliant, brilliant, thing to have, a product to offer.
Mm-hmm. And just as you said that, Dorothea, it struck me that we're here to talk about financial literacy and how credit unions enable the community as far as learning and developing better habits. But by just making that requirement whereby people must save to be a part of your institution, right there and then, that is financial literacy at work. Because one of the 5 money musts that we always talk about is, of course, saving. So if you're going to join an institution, and one of the requirements is that you also have to save on a consistent basis, to me, that is like a built-in community enabler and a community building exercise that really goes a long way in ensuring that its members adapt positive financial habits.
And especially, I'm just thinking for that young person.
Yes. And as I understand it as well.
Go ahead, Dorothea.
Sorry. Yes. Yes, and as I understand it as well, if you're going in for a loan, part of the process of loan underwriting is to ensure that you actually qualify. So if I know I qualify for a loan payment of $1,500, there is security there, because it's not I'm paying a loan for $1,500 and I have this additional compulsory savings element. It's embedded in that $1,500 that you're paying towards the loan and also to the savings. And so there is that relief, that comfort that you don't have to scrape and find additional funds for that component, that saving component. And I think that is fantastic.
So I
And
think
what I
that's
was going to
wonderful.
say here is that there are lots of young people who I've spoken to, and one of their difficulties is saving. So they
Exactly.
they haven't yet developed the habits to properly save. And as I hear you speak, I'm thinking they need to start with the credit union,
Yeah.
because when they get to needing a loan, they're going to be already in the habit of saving, and even when they are repaying the loan, they're actually saving as well. I think that's a really great concept.
No, I think so too.
And as you said, Dorit, it helps with the financial literacy. You're
And your
actually
habits,
helping them
you know?
from the very beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
And if
Denise,
I
did you
may
want to
add
say
here,
something? Oh, I'm
Miss
sorry.
Seeley's saying something.
Oh, I'm
Go
sorry.
if
ahead.
I may add here, one of the reasons why persons should really join a credit union is that they offer great products. Some of our credit unions here, they offer various savings components. You can save for vacation, travel. You have Christmas club. Some people call it Flexi Box.
Yep.
You
I've
know, you
seen
have
Carnival.
Summer Club. And also, one of our credit unions, they also have one that is called the MOSA, which is a mortgage savings. So if you plan to build, you can start to put aside funds, which would go towards your mortgage. So if you're a young person, you can start to save. So by the time you're ready to own your home, you would have a very good down payment for your mortgage.
It's a good
You would have
concept.
to be fronting. So as I indicated before, the products that this credit union offers is very good. And also, we have our counterpart in Trinidad, CUNA Caribbean. There's also the Family Indemnity Plan, which is a funeral plan. It covers up to 6 persons, the member, and 5 others, which include your spouse, parents, and children. Because death is inevitable, and some persons do not have the money for a funeral. So once you make your claim, within 48 hours, you should get your response. So that is something that the credit unions here offer their members.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
A question that I have, and it arises with other, I think we looked at it, especially with banking as well. I was wondering, to what extent do you provide training to your employees? So, employees in the credit union sector, what kind of training is provided to them so that they can impart this knowledge to their members and ensure that we are essentially contributing to a more responsible, financially responsible society?
Well, the league would put on training programs for their member credit unions.
Uh-huh.
It's based on, most of the times, it's based on the needs of their credit unions. And we usually ask them, what are their needs, so that we can cater to them. We have had training on understanding financial statements. We have had customer service training. We have had many other training that would benefit our staff. We have savings components. We have had volunteer training, AML, various training. We are not really gearing a lot towards the financial literacy, so to speak, but we have had general training which would good for our volunteers and our staff AML, as I indicated before. But I think that is maybe something that we can implement in the future, because a lot of our members may not know much about financial literacy. So I think that is something that the league can look towards doing in the future.
And to add on that, I was actually going to ask you if you've ever done training for your members themselves, separate from the actual persons within the credit unions, if perhaps there have been any types of training courses put on specifically for the members.
The league has not really done much of that, but I know the credit unions themselves, they would have training for their members.
Okay.
They would have, but the league basically would cater for the volunteers and the staff.
Right.
Most,
Right.
most of
And
the
I've seen a lot of the credit unions advertise, for example, lots of savings programs for children. And at SFCG, we are next Thursday is Teach Children to Save Day, the 27th.
I was just
And
about
so
to mention that. I was just about to mention that we are so pleased that the league, just to piggyback on what Mrs. Jarvis was saying, we are taking a very keen look on our suite of products and services, and training is integral. So this particular year, we really want to roll out a number of training courses and events that can meet the needs to not just the staff and the members and volunteers, but we're going to see if we can expand it even further. Training that we would want to cover would be things that are topical now, things that involve cybersecurity. Of course, corporate governance will always be topical, risk management, and we just completed training on credit and the whole loan underwriting and approval process. But next week, Thursday, as you were saying, Jareed, we at the League are so thrilled to be partnering with SFCG on the Teach Your Children to Save Day. Next week, Thursday, April 27th, we will be visiting a few schools in the island and just talking and teaching about financial literacy. We'll also be ensuring that we work with information about the various products and services that the various credit unions offer that are geared towards saving at a very early age, so that the students and the parents can see the offerings and jump on board. So we're quite excited about that.
Yes, and Megan, I just sent you the video from last year's Teach Children to Save Day. If we can cue that up to be shown later today, I think that was great. That was such a special experience.
It was.
So
absolutely
I
special.
know we probably have lots of questions and comments. So let's take an opportunity to hear from our audience. But when we come back to Denise, to Dorothea, and also Miss Seeley, I really want to talk about, Miss Seeley Jarvis, I really want to talk about, because you guys are not associated with a particular credit union, which is a good thing because we're not here to promote one over the other. But I'm just curious as to what are some of the considerations that a member or potential member go through when it comes to selecting the credit union that's right for you. For somebody like me, I probably would just go with the one who advertises the most. I mean, that's what you're aware of, right? But what kind of guidance can you provide to consumers who are looking to become members of a credit union in terms of selecting the best credit union for them? And every credit union, I'm sure, has its strengths, weaknesses, and nuances. People have their individual needs. What guidance can you provide? So we'll just take a couple of comments from our viewers and listeners, and then we'll come back to continue this discussion.
Okay, we have our very own Miriam Samuel. She says, "Good afternoon, family. I have been a member of the credit union for a very long time, and I am still a member. And we did not know that you were the treasurer of the league."
Did not know. Never did know.
Then Denise Armstrong, she says, "Impressive statistics on credit unions. I have been a member for over 30 years. So good for you, Denise."
I guess Denise started before she was born.
Maybe when she was born. Those are all the comments we have for now. If you have other comments, keep them coming. Keep them coming.
Okay, so Megan, as you queue up the video, let's get back to our ladies to discuss, how do we shop for a credit union? I personally wouldn't know where to start. Like I said, I'm a marketer, so I would my first stop would be, who do I hear about the most? Which may not necessarily mean that that's the credit union that meets my needs. So any guidance you can provide in terms of what should we be looking for to make that determination?
I think firstly, we need to understand that the credit unions that are here, there's some people who may have an alliance to them anyway. You have the Seventh-day Adventist Cooperative Credit Union.
That's true.
that's closed. You have the APUA, you have police, you have Community First, which first was Teachers Credit Union. So you usually find people
That's
in the
true.
community. Yeah, people are drawn to the credit unions that they have some connection with. Outside of that, you would have, just like with any industry, you're going to find people who will be looking to see what the reputation is, what their rates are. Rates meaning interest rates on deposit accounts, and interest rates on loans. Also, what their fees and commissions, if any, are. So you're going to look about that, what the populace thinks about their customer service, how visible they are in the community, and with that visibility, you tend to, if they're really out there and doing many things in the community, that might attract you. So many factors that may draw a person to a credit union or cause them to want to join a particular one or the other.
No, that
Just
makes
to
a lot
add,
of sense. Uh-huh.
just to add to Dorothea's points, credit unions differ based on their membership bond.
Membership bond.
Right. And she spoke about Seventh-day Adventist, which is closed. So you have open bonded credit unions and closed bonded credit unions. What you find that there are three types of bonds: employee-based, association-based, and community-based. And usually they start small. So you may have an entity that may want to start a credit union for their employees, and then it might spring to now include their families, nieces, nephews, mother, father, etc. You have the police, which is an association type based credit union, teachers, which is an association based, community based tend to be open bonded, persons who may live or work in a particular area, etc. So they tend to, credit unions starts with the membership bond. And then that membership bond, you can, in different territories, you can become a member of more than one credit union as well. And we encourage that because you want to diversify your portfolio.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and that is why we always say cooperation among cooperatives. That's one of our principles.
It now makes sense. It now makes sense. And I mean, I'm thinking, Denise, the AGM is where decisions are made. Where would I be most comfortable and most familiar and most, informed?
Correct.
With some community group, my fellow employees, some association that I choose to join. So there's already a bond, like you said, that community bond. So it makes a whole lot of sense that the genesis of credit unions and the path that you're taking, it makes a lot of sense because it's based on some kind of community, whether it's your employment, whether it's an association, or whether it's by geographic location. So that makes a whole lot of sense.
Yes.
Also, too, some persons might want to look at maybe where the credit union is located.
For convenience, yes.
Yes. They will probably also look at maybe what the credit union looks like, because they don't want to go into a credit union where the space is all cramped up. They want to know that they go into a place where they have good aesthetics.
Of course, the service, of course.
And also to the different products and service that the credit union offers. For most, especially the younger demographic, they would look for a credit union that offers ATM service. Some people might want checking account. So if the credit union offers that, they will want to join that credit union, as opposed to if they don't have that type of service.
And I've noticed a lot of credit unions using social media. That's very smart. Because again, who's on your social media? It's your social media is your community. That's your online community.
Yes.
So if it's all built in with community bonds, social media is really one of the, not to talk about, we're not even looking at the cost. It's one of the most cost-effective ways to promote your business or to really connect with people But then at the root of all of this is a community, and that's what social media is all about. At the root of it is, connections with people that are in your circle. So it makes a lot of sense. So it now explains to me why I'm seeing so much these days as far as credit unions. A question I have, and Dorothy, you and I had a brief discussion about
Lady,
this.
we talk. Can I jump in before you?
Sure, go right ahead.
Prior to the quest, when you got the comments, I just wanted, just for even the audience's knowledge, because we're about financial literacy, not just about the member, but the member understanding how the credit union movement works.
That's true.
I spoke earlier about global statistics, but I think it's important to even look at the structure, because we have at the very top, we have the World Council of Credit Unions, and they serve as national associations, regional associations, and the Caribbean Confederation of Credit Unions is a regional regional apex trade association. Then we have 12 leagues as members and 4 credit unions in 4 different countries, because we have 16 members territories. Now those leagues usually their members are credit unions, and then the members now are members of the credit unions, which is the general populace.
Okay.
So that's the hierarchy pretty much. So when we spoke about training earlier, you would have heard where Dorothy and Agnes may have mentioned that the league doesn't necessarily do financial literacy training, because the credit unions will do that for their membership.
Makes sense.
Then the leagues now will do that for their members, which are credit unions. So that's when Dorothea mentioned the aspect of cybersecurity, risk management, corporate governance, etc. And when we will do then the training for overall credit unions, occasionally, like for understanding financial statements, etc., we will do that for members as well. So they understand when they go to an AGM what types of questions to ask the board of directors, what types of questions also to ask the supervisory committee, the credit committee. Some of them may want to serve as well. So we want to ensure that they are financially literate in terms of that aspect of the business.
And I can imagine that being very key, because it ties back into one man, one vote. And
Correct.
also the decisions are made locally as opposed to some conglomerate located somewhere else in a lot of these community associations. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that structure, Denise. It's much clearer now. It
Yes,
makes a
it
lot of
is.
sense. Yeah.
It is.
Okay.
Yep. Another question I have, and this can be directed to either of you 3 ladies, Denise, because you have more of a regional perspective on it. You may have had some experience with it, but I live in the diaspora, and I often get approached by a lot of people who, you're at that stage where you're looking at retirement more seriously. You're established in the United States, Canada, the UK, and in the next 10 years, 15 years, I'm going to want to perhaps set up homes, buy a second home. I may be looking to retire, but it makes sense. And people here who have experience with credit unions, they already understand the culture, but they're looking to be a part of the credit union movement. They're sold on the concept, but I don't hear a lot of outreach from the credit unions in tapping into the diaspora. I know when we spoke with our guests from the banking sector, she alluded to some regulatory issues and different types of things that limit
correspondent banking relationships.
Correct.
Yes.
So is there any workaround?
Not so nice, those not so nice words.
Yes. And I don't even know what they mean, because I'm not in banking. When I hear correspondent, I'm thinking CNN. So I'm serious. It means nothing to me. Dorothy and Megan educate me all the time because I come from media. So when I hear correspondent banking, the first time I said that, I kind of looked around to see if I was the only one who didn't know what they were talking about. But I'm serious. I mean, of course, I Googled it because I was like, everybody seemed to know what is a correspondent bank. But
Yes.
all
That's
jokes aside, what can be done? Because realistically, there's so much untapped wealth, potential in the diaspora. People now, I mean, people in the diaspora have become very educated. They are thinking ahead. COVID has really made us look at life very differently in terms of how we invest and we kind of create various options for ourselves. So I know a lot of it is out of your hands, but what can be done to incentivize persons in the diaspora to look at credit unions? And in your case, Denise, because you have a broader Caribbean perspective, are there any credit unions out there who are actively going after that market, albeit, the limitations and the constraints?
I would say all of the territories are actively looking at ways that we can assist the diaspora. I can give an example. Montserrat, which is just very close to Antigua and Barbuda, and has a very good relationship with that country. The volcano caused a lot of persons to migrate, and they're still members of their credit unions. They still want to send their savings back, and it is a challenge. So yes, there's money remittances, etc., but those are so costly. So we are in discussions right now, and just to say that we have lobbied with the central bank, where credit unions have now been their amendments to their rules have now taken into account to allow credit unions to participate in the automated clearinghouse. So that's one good thing for the
That's
entire
wonderful.
movement. And that covers the 8 countries, with the exception of 2 that still has to pass their amendments in their specific countries. But that is progress for us, because that will assist us in getting wire transfers, etc. Because of that same CBR, which is a correspondent banking relations, it becomes very difficult for the diaspora to send funds to their credit unions. They would have to use some means, whether some other financial service. I won't call any names, but basically to use some other avenue to send the money, and it is very costly to do so.
Right.
And
It defeats the purpose. You want the convenience,
Exactly. And we're not about fees. The credit union movement has never been about fees. We have very low cost fees, right across the region. And because of the fact of our business model, it's very unique. And as I indicated before, in terms of the fact that members are shareholders, so we're not for profit. We don't push for profit. It is not for profit, but it is for service.
No, that's that's a great answer.
So it's very difficult for us to get the diasporas, members of the diaspora to save, but we are working on ensuring that should come to fruition very soon.
Well, that's something to look forward to.
Absolutely, absolutely. I invited a diaspora group to hear this discussion today, because that's something that always comes up. People are looking to, and they're looking for long-term investments. They're looking to put this money away for retirement. So they're your ideal type of customers, because this is not money that they're looking to draw down on or get loans on anytime soon. So, they are long-term savers and looking towards 10, 15 years down the road. So I sincerely hope that we can find some solutions to really tap into that very lucrative sector of society.
Yes.
Megan, Any more comments, ladies, before we take another break, just to interact with our viewers?
Well, I wanted to ask a question, perhaps of the ones in Antigua. It could be Denise as well. They are credit unions. Is there any, are there any plans afoot to extend the footprint that is in creating other credit unions, or just to focus on increasing the membership of the credit unions?
When you say footprint, you mean more branches, more organizations?
More credit
More
unions.
credit unions
Okay,
themselves,
okay.
as opposed to
Just
just having
growing them.
members in the existing ones.
Gotcha.
We always promote more credit unions.
Absolutely.
However, if there are enough credit unions that can serve the general populace, and usually because of, as I mentioned earlier, about the membership bond, because you have credit unions that are open bonded,
Gotcha.
and any member can join. Any person, can join that. But we do, right now, we are working in other, I can only speak from the Triple CU side, that we are working with other territories to start credit unions.
Okay.
So it's not in a particular country, I would say, because of mergers and acquisitions, etc., that you find that the startup is not as much as it would be in a country that there are none.
Right.
Because you already probably have enough credit unions there that can actually serve the populace.
Right. You're at a mature stage.
Right.
That makes perfect sense.
Gotcha. Okay. Good. Appreciate that.
Okay. So do we have any additional comments, questions from our
There are
viewers?
no more comments from our listeners. No more comments. And I haven't been able to upload that video at all,
Okay.
so we won't be able to watch that today.
Okay, great. Well, we certainly invite everyone to pose questions if you're listening. We have some gurus here from the Credit Union League and also from the Caribbean Confederation with a lot of knowledge and experience. So if you have questions, we have the experts here who can answer. Denise, I'm just a little curious about your background, though. You sound like you've had a career. I was going to read your bio and we just got started, but maybe this might be a good opportunity to tell us how you got to be involved in the credit union business. And looking at your bio, it sounds like you've had quite a career in this space. So can you share a little bit about your experience, what got you started?
What got me started? Well, my mother.
Okay.
So my mother worked in banking for 40 years, but within the 40 years, 25 of those years, she was seconded to start the credit union of the bank employees.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. So a big bank based in Jamaica, and she headed the credit union for 25 years there. And I started with the Jamaica Cooperative Credit Union League back in 2000. And I stayed with them for the Jamaican movement for 15 years, and then transitioned to the Caribbean Confederation of Credit Unions now for 7 years. So just about 22, 23 years, I'm in the credit union movement.
So she started at 5.
Yes.
I was going to say. Because when you hear 2000, that was, oh my God, that was 2 decades ago.
Yes.
And then some.
You come with a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, for sure.
Great.
For sure.
Yeah, wealth of knowledge and experience. That's good.
Share, basically to share and encourage.
Yes.
No,
Credit unions
wonderful.
are dear to my heart, and you find that once you've entered into the credit union sector, it's very hard to leave. because
We've heard that. We've heard that. I wonder why do you think that is though?
because we are for a
Community.
purpose.
Yeah,
We serve a purpose. There's
I
a
can see that.
purpose that why we
That
are
is
here.
also infectious with the members. I've found that members are also very, very, very loyal
Yeah.
to the credit unions, which
And
is
passionate.
a fantastic thing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And think about it. When you get to go to even though it's said, and I've heard various credit unions talk about it, you own it, you have a vote. But think about the dynamics of what an AGM must look like.
Yeah.
Whether you're rich, poor, in between, educated,
there.
less educated, or uneducated, everybody counts, and everybody's
There
money
you have a
counts.
say.
And you
Absolutely.
belong.
Democratic controlled.
Yes.
Yeah.
process.
And I
Yes.
can't think of
Yes.
there are very few organizations in this world that
Well, that's
operate on that premise. Clearly money talks in most circles. You have more money, you have more say.
Yep.
You have more education, you have more voice.
Mhm.
So it's very interesting that it accommodates everybody, and regardless of your situation in life, age or stage. It sounds like it's a nurturing place to be because everybody feels that their contributions and their money counts.
Yes. And we emanated out of the working class.
Yes.
There you go.
Emanated out of the working class, and it's such a pleasure when a member comes to you and is so proud of their achievement, owning a home, owning a car, being able to take a loan to do. I tell persons I take a loan for everything. If I'm going on vacation, I take a loan.
Oh wow.
I don't
Wow.
use cash. I do not use my cash.
Mhm.
It's harder to replace your cash than to pay for your loan.
That is true.
So you probably just have a loan allotment that you kind of just roll over. It sounds that way to me. How else? Like 500
Because of that extra savings,
Yeah.
that extra savings.
Oh, I
Yes,
got you.
yes,
I got
yes.
you. Okay.
Gotcha.
So this is
Awesome.
like a psychedelic box hand then.
With much more controls.
A
Much more.
modern age
Yes.
box hand because it really gives you that discipline, and over time it just becomes people who are in the susu box hand.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something you do. It's a financial literacy tool.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a topic we need to explore. Me again, the box hand is a financial literacy tool.
Probably.
I'm just curious
I'll
as to
tell
who
you
our
some
guests would be.
about it later. But before we wrap up today, I want us to talk about next week, because next week is the last week.
In financial literacy month, yes.
And I hope our viewers remember last year we had 3 awesome young people who came on to speak about Teach Children to Save Day. And I've reached out to them again. A year has passed, so I want to hear from them a year on. What are their thoughts, their insights on saving? So I've gotten for sure one confirmation, Mr. Asafa.
Oh, yes.
And the other 2, I know there's exams going on, but I'm hoping that we will have them as well. We're also going to be featuring the game that we created, the 5 to Survive, 5 Money Musts. And we've incorporated our financial vibrations. So we're going to be showing that as well. So it's going to be a fun time. I encourage everyone to join in next week for our last session in our financial literacy month.
Ladies,
Well, Denise?
I want to say it's a pleasure. I love your show name, Little Byte Ideas. It was a pleasure to be on stage with you all.
It was our pleasure to have
It
you.
was. Thanks for the education.
Yes. And I'm really impressed with what you've done and what I like the concept of when you explain what it is each structure does. It makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. And I wish you all the best in
Absolutely.
your endeavors to expand the footprint.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Denise, we had some young people on last year. They blew me away.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
They, when I say special, extremely articulate, and they are savers. They understand money. I mean, I wasn't talking this much then because I was out talked.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yes.
they were. I mean, I was just totally blown away.
Yeah.
Awesome.
With how how attentive they were to their money, their long-term plans, educating themselves in the future. Of course, I'm joking with them and telling this one he's going to be prime minister, and of course he's claiming the name, he's claiming the title. It was amazing. So it's going to be very special to see. I really hope we can get all three back next week.
That's my hope. That's my hope.
They're a year older.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure with a lot more vision, a lot more ideas, a lot more experiences. And it's going to be great to do that check-in. And it's going to be one day ahead of Teach Children to Save Day, where we go into some of the schools. Of course, everyone who knows the board game, the game of life, we have converted it to a game that children can play while budgeting. So they get to pick the type. They have several options. They get to pick the type of car, the type of house where they want to live,
salary that they're gonna make,
their jobs.
Awesome.
And then of course they have expenses. The expenses that come with that. So you see them after a while realizing, oh no, let me not take that house, because with that house comes
I don't have any money.
expenses, and my budget levels are going to go down.
Budgeting.
Yes,
absolutely.
So
there was this one guy that said, "Oh no, I don't want this because I have to save for my retirement."
Yes, you see his face. I was dying to bring on that video. He said, "No, I'm not saving. I'm going to save my money for my retirement." I died. It was so hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So we're looking forward to that this year as well.
Yeah.
And
there's hope on the horizon. Having interacted with these young people, we're on the right track in terms of teaching them good habits, and they're definitely connecting with what needs to be done.
Yes,
Great.
and we at the League are really thrilled and pleased to be partnering with you guys in that venture as well.
We are thrilled as well.
Fantastic.
Looking forward to that.
Absolutely
Great.
looking forward.
Agnes, any final words? We want to give
Yes.
everyone a chance to speak. Go right ahead.
Credit unions are indeed unique organizations, and I would just like to encourage anyone who is not a member of a credit union, join a credit union today.
Well said.
Very well said. Very well said.
Well, if there are no further questions or comments, I want to thank all of our guests for being a part of this important discussion. It's always so good to hear a different perspective from the people who are tasked with these responsibilities. So we want to thank Denise, we want to thank Dorothea, and we want to thank Agnes for joining us here today to give us a little more perspective on credit unions. And we join with you in encouraging everyone, if you're not yet a member, definitely give it some consideration. So
It was
from
an
the team,
absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much, Dorothea. Thank you so much, Denise, and thank you, Agnes.
You're welcome.
Pleasure.
Thank you, ladies.
well,
All right.
continue to enjoy Financial Literacy Month. We'll see you back here next Wednesday, same time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another edition of Likkle Byte Ideas. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see
Bye,
you next
everyone.
week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. All the best with your show.
Thank you.